My name is Bart Hopkin. I'm a maker of musical instruments, and today, in this video, I'm going to explain the workings of one of my instruments, namely this one, the one you just saw. It's called smoked paprika. Smoked paprika. In this instrument, the first thing happening is we have these sounding elements. Each of these is a steel bar bent to a certain angle. Bending it to an angle like that allows it to vibrate at something like the tuning fork modes. You have the two halves of the fork or this bar vibrating in opposite directions. It makes a nice stable vibration, good sounding, sustains well. So that's our starting point here. But one thing to keep in mind about this is that in these, as with almost all musical vibrating bodies, there's not just one mode of vibration. There are many, many modes of vibration present, and each of those modes has its own attendant frequencies. In this case, as with many idiophones, those frequencies don't line up in some nice coherent harmonic series. They're full of inharmonic relationships. The frequencies are kind of all over the place. When the ear hears a sound like that, it has a harder time identifying a clear pitch in the sound. But for this instrument, I wanted to have a nice clear pitch sense. I wanted the sound to be one that's easy for the ear to relate to and make sense of. I should add, by the way, that inharmonic sounds, such as this was before I started to work on it, those kinds of sounds can be musically really great. They can be useful, they can be interesting, they can be colorful. But in this case, as I said, I wanted that simple, coherent tone quality with easily identifiable pitch. So, how did I get from a bent bar which was dominated by inharmonics to something that has a clear pitch sense? First of all, I discovered just by experimentation that bending the bar the right amount, a certain amount of bending, put the overtone relationships in a region where several of the most prominent modes of vibration were producing frequencies that were sort of reasonably close to something that I could work with as a starting point. Their relationships were a good starting point for me. So, after bending the bars to that degree, I then went through a process of adding these little saw curves. What these curves do is they alter the vibrating patterns enough to shift the relationships between the frequencies present. Now, there's several saw curves. Several of these have more than one. The question of where you place the saw curves and how deep you make the curves, that's sort of the tuning process. That's how you're adjusting things. It's a slow and painstaking process. When I said that I had tuned some of the modes to be in these more coherent relationships, what I mostly meant is tuning to octaves and octave displaced fifths. Those are relationships that the ear easily relates to, and if you organize them the right way, you can get something that relates more closely to a harmonic series and gives the ear a better pitch sense. So in these bars now you have not all the modes tuned, because that would be impossible. There's a gazillion modes, but several of the most prominent modes tuned to these relationships, giving it a clear pitch sense. But notice that the inharmonics are still there. They didn't go away. And they're there giving this thing a feeling of a little bit of color, a little bit of spice, a little bit of piquancy. I like that effect. Each of the bars now is resting on a string. It's suspended from its own musical string. And the strings are tunable. You can see that there are tuning gears right here. So the bars are sitting on these strings. I tuned the strings to notes that were, basically I tuned them to agree with the predominant note of each of the bars. The strings naturally tend to produce a lot of harmonic modes, unlike these bars. So you have the bars with their mix of harmonics and inharmonics being filtered to the primarily harmonic sets of biases of the strings. And of course, this is an ideal situation for sympathetic vibration, because these guys are going predominantly at a frequency that the string is tuned to and relates really well. In other words, the bar is driving the string at frequencies that the string likes, so it's easy to get the string going. Now, the strings have pickups on them. Here are pickups on each of the sets of strings. Notice the pickups are listening to the strings, not to the bars. So what the pickup is getting is the bar sound as filtered through the strings. The sound that I like in this thing, actually, it turns out, is a blend of the acoustic sound coming off the bars and the string sound as picked up by the pickup and sent to the amplifier. So it's the mixture of the amplified sound and the natural acoustic sound that I like. And in what you heard at the start of this video, the mic was set up in such a way as it would pick up both. So you heard this nice blend of natural acoustic sound and the string sound as we hear it through the amplifier. And people, that's basically it. That's how this instrument works. Those are the elements that make it do what it does. Smoked paprika.